Oh, guys, you guys caught me off guard. Oh, you guys caught me off guard. How's everybody doing? I'm a little bit too far. A little bit too far, and I forgot my tassel. Damn, I forgot my tassel. Okay. Oh my God. Wow, how's everybody doing? Oh, it's so good. It's so good to be back to normal. One more person died, by the way, because they're still trying the witchcraft. They're still trying it. The cycle is over. And, I think these people are about to lose their minds. That's a shame. Oh, a word or two for you copycats that are out there. The investigators show me the profiles are crazy. People even got hair extensions to look like me, shaves and everything, oiling their bodies, trying to emulate my style, stealing my content and putting it on OnlyFans and other platforms. Ah, and I was asked if I wanted to prosecute. And I said, prosecuting and filing charges is the easy part. But I had to get 3 lawyers to fight this case about my inheritance that was stolen from me in my home and all that kind of stuff. So I will get tied up in legal stuff for the rest of the year and spending thousands of dollars. This is going to be at least a $30,000 to $40,000 bill, legal bill, just to get my inheritance. But that's not really what bothers me. It really isn't. To me, they can have it because I will have 10 times more and then some. But when it comes to content, here we have a little bit of a problem. Uh, I don't care if people out there try to emulate me and try to fit my shoes. If they can do that, I think that's great. That means that we'll have more people out there spreading the knowledge and awakening the new age. But here's the thing, this is not my content for anyone to steal. This is occult knowledge that you're not going to find anywhere unless you are a member of the club. And you all know what I mean by that. But, this type of knowledge has an essence of its own. It's a living, breathing record. Memory itself is a living, breathing essence. Think of it as an appendage, one of many that belongs to the source. Uh, I don't have any great power other than the power that was allotted to me in equal glory that has been given to everybody else. You have one way to express your glory, and I have another way to express my glory. All of us can express an aspect of the Creator in glory. So there's no need to copycat or mimic. And let me tell you, when I saw these footages, if you're going to go to that kind of effort and energy to emulate something that you're not, why don't you put that same energy in developing the uniqueness that you do have? But then here's the thing. People think that what I do is effortless, that I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, privileged all my life, and that I never had to work a hard day's labor. That's a shame because nothing that's worth having and fighting to have or achieve is not going to come without effort, sacrifice, strain and a little bit of sorrow. If women have to give birth in pain and then have to experience the sting of death, that pretty much tells you what's in between. I caution you. You can copycat me all you want. I hope you do a good job. Do not copycat the content. Create your own content. Because if you copycat this content and you act like you know what you're talking about, this content will turn on you. It won't obey you. And what's going to happen is that you might become mentally insane. This type of knowledge has already selected its vessel in which to come through. If you're not appointed the vessel in which to dispense this knowledge, do not attempt to copycat it, because you will go mentally insane. And I can tell you, there are many, many mystics and even rabbis and high priests that have, and what the Bible talks about King Solomon, who became mentally insane. Because this knowledge can make you mentally insane if you're not careful and if you're not capable of handling that particular type of knowledge, particularly if you're not an initiate. So, fair warning. Fair warning. Now, little Aperol. Pluto in Aquarius. We know nothing about it. There's nothing on record. There's no reference point. There's no mythology connected to it. And Uranus also entered Aquarius, just like it did when it conjuncted Sagittarius with Pluto and with Virgo in the 60s. Here we go again. It's difficult to isolate what Pluto in Aquarius means, since we have some of you who are also born with Uranus in Aquarius. Towards the tail end of it. So that's a whole different synthesis. So I meditated and prayed on it to see how I'm going to proceed. How am I going to proceed? Well, they gave me some visions of what to talk about. But because this is Aquarius and it deals with the collective, here is where you guys can be part of history. I'm creating a contest. $500, first prize. $300, second prize. And $100, the first or the third prize. Given to anyone who can write a 200-word, and I will count the words. And spaces is included in words. It's every 4 letters plus space counts as a word. There is a way to break it apart. If you don't know, let me know, or I'll talk to an English teacher, professor, to give me the linguistics, because I forgot what it was. I used to teach 10th grade English, but I forgot the actual. And language change and evolves since the last time I was ever in a classroom teaching. So it will be 200 words. And I want you to tell me or suggest to me what Pluto in Aquarius will be like. You can discuss all 12 aspects of life or 6. No less than 6, though. If it's brilliantly written and it's less than 6, it will be disqualified. We got 12 houses, 12 departments of life. Either you write all 12 or just 6. Include that in your synthesis of Pluto in Aquarius. Particular emphasis shall be given to those of you who have Pluto in the 11th house. If you have Pluto in the 11th house, and you win amongst the others who don't have Pluto in the 11th house, the first prize will be $1,000. The second prize will be 500, and the third prize will be 300. But only to those with Pluto in the 11th house, and if they win the contest. You might not win. Someone with Pluto in another house might win, who has a better take on how it might be that Pluto will function in the 11th house or in Aquarius. You're going to explain in 200 words what the age of Aquarius, which is 2,500 years span, more or less, is going to entail. You can choose any reference point you want, or you can go by your intuition. Because Aquarius rules telepathy, ESP, remote viewing, psychometry, and all paranormal extrasensory talents, I would welcome you to tap into those aspects of yourself, to connect to the source that will give you something that you can put on paper. And it does not matter how crazy, strange, perverted it is. Because if that's what you get, write it. Don't censor it. Here you get to trust yourself and trust your own capability to tap into source. You might have to learn to meditate before you write the essay and pray and ask for protection and guidance, since you are going to, if you choose to tap into the inner self and go into the ethers by mental connection projection, then do pray, do a little prayer that you come back in one piece, in thought. Not that you're going to project your astral body out, your mental projection, and connect to the future. You can use references from science fiction, movies, books, series, anything that deals with Aquarian, technological, new age, avant-garde, or the eccentric, or the strange, or unfamiliar. You could use any of that. You can use Mother Nature. Uranus expresses itself in Mother Nature through natural disasters. Get a good definition of what Aquarius is, and also Uranus, before you venture into Pluto, because they are almost similar. Pluto is about destruction, but so is Uranus, but both for different motivation. Uranus is temporary, while Pluto is permanent. I would love that. You can pull, or you can. That's one essay, and then I can give you the option to do another essay. And here I want you to create a mythology of Pluto in Aquarius by using what you already have available as far as mythology with Uranus and Aquarius and Pluto. See if you can come up with your own mythology when you put them all together. Oh, this is an exercise, and it's a way of figuring out a new perspective at looking at what this vision of Pluto in Aquarius might be, might mean, might signify. Um, Before we talk about Pluto in Aquarius, we have to define what Aquarius is. We also have to consider Saturn in the equation, because before Uranus was discovered in 1841, I believe, the ruler of Aquarius was Saturn as his classical co-ruler. So we may need to add Saturn in the equation when we're talking about Pluto in the 11th house and we're talking collectively. And also take a crapshoot and see if you can interpret it as far as in the natal chart in the individual horoscope of a person. That would be very challenging. I will write it myself, and I'm going to post it on my website, thepeoplesastrologer.com, so you guys can get a basis of understanding, or a guide. I might even put some rules there. Okay, so you guys can follow it. So look to that this Friday, and I will put it on the header, and I will let you know if you need that as an assistance. Okay? And of course, read my headers in my website. I have a lot of entries on Pluto and Capricorn, Uranus. I have a lot of profiles of movie stars and senators and people that I've done charts for that may have these signatures. Look at those, learn what it is to be a researcher, and you'll get an appreciation of how difficult and how involved the process of research and disseminating and isolating and dissecting and evaluating information before you put it out there. It is quite a process, but it's a responsible one, because that way you don't get put on a chokehold should someone try to challenge you on what you say. Um, Pluto in Aquarius. Well, it's Aquarius. If we are to make bullet points, we can say that Aquarius, talking collectively and as pockets of groups, we can consider it like a body, and the different organs represents Aquarius. The liver has different function, but it's unique because if you cut part of the liver, it regrows. It's the only organ in the body that can regenerate. That's very Aquarius. That's very wow. The spleen, the stomach, the pancreas, all working together to sustain a full organism. We can say that the different planets, the different solar systems, the different galaxies, the different constellations are all parts of a body of the Creator. I mean, if you look at an atom, right, with a neutron, protons, and electron, don't they look like planets orbiting a sun? Yeah. You have here, you have the nucleus. And in the nucleus, you have a proton and a neutron. And then out in the shells, right, the rings, you have the electrons circulating. That could be a planet circulating a sun. As above, so below. The physics of the small, quantum mechanics, versus the physics of the large. The sun is the center of our solar system. We can say that that is a proton and a nucleus, while the planets are electrons going in circles. So that's a big electron building something else that we are inside of it. So we could be the bacteria or other microbes that are inside our stomach and flora of our bodies. We could represent that as inside the organ system and body of a being, which we still have not made conscious contact with. Right? So we can break down the science of Aquarius by looking at the different parts that seem different but really are not that different, but they come together as a synthesis to create and sustain a one. That's as esoteric as I'm going to get. We are all different atoms, protons and neutrons, running around, being directed by a soul or a spirit that tells us and directs us, no different than the endocrine system and hormones being regulated to function here and function there, do this and do that. The endocrine system is the rulership of hormones. Hormone is a Greek word, hormona, which means to urge, and is, of course, regulated by the parasympathetic nervous system, which stimulates these areas or glands, or releases these hormones being directed to do specific functions. To this day, many scientists don't understand how that works, but they do know that it is completely dominated by the para and the parasympathetic nervous system. which urges these hormones to do specific jobs, kind of like a beehive. And we have the drone bee, and we have the different types of bees who are designed to do specific functioning within the beehive. It is no different of a facsimile than that of an automobile, which was designed after the human body. The only reason why we have an automobile is because we were able to replicate it by looking at the human body. That was the genius of Ford, who was one of the progenitors of creating the car and bringing it down scientifically, which models the functioning of the human body. Genius of thoughts like that give rise to inventions and new innovations is the essence of Aquarius. Genetic engineering is also Aquarius, even though genetics and DNA and bioengineering belongs to Leo. Of course it does. It's the polarity point of Aquarius. In Aquarius, the gene knowledge of the fifth house, Leo, is brought to Aquarius, where here it can create its own God. While in Leo, we have the DNAs of the source. In Aquarius, it becomes a replica of the source in a synthetic way of creating life, but not as pure as the source, but a simulation, a facsimile, a hologram. But this makes sense because it's not real in the sense that it doesn't have a soul. It is just a facsimile, no different than the human body and the car, which was modeled after the human body, which has a soul. But the car doesn't have a soul, but yet it functions exactly like the human body in which it replicated it. So we can say that that's a zombie because it's just like a human being, functioning like a human being, and the car was based on the model of the human being and its function, but it has no soul. So here we have a facsimile, a holographic functioning of a human body in a car, a non-living matter, and it has no soul. So I think it is logical to say that in the Aquarian age, we are going to see more living simulated forms taking over everyday life. We are already experiencing that to a certain degree with the cell phones. That's why they call them smartphones and Androids. An Android is a robot. So when we have phones that turn on by themselves, or they ring a person you don't want to talk to, but it does it anyway, don't be surprised if it is capturing an essence of your soul and letting that be the running engine instead of a battery that can make that phone connected to you in a very, very interpersonal way. Look at the Terminator, the rise of the machines. That's not that far-fetched. If we can do a car which simulates the functioning of the human body, why not create a robot that can do anything a human can do, but it's soulless? So therefore, there's no question of empathy, morality, right or wrong. It just does what is autonomically created to do. Very Aquarius. Genius. But there's a fine line between genius and insanity. Pluto here can create a catastrophic imbalance in which one group takes over the whole. Well, look at Star Trek, the Borg from Star Trek, a whole race, and what's their mission? Assimilate. They go to different star systems and they take those life forms of those star systems and make them like them, killing the original creativity, again, Leo, the polarity point, and merging it with them to create one whole, the Borg of Star Trek. That to me represents Pluto in Aquarius, where one extraterrestrial race comes and its agenda is to completely destroy the human race and take over the planet. That's Pluto. In order to take the planet, it must destroy the human race. Because if the human race is here, then there'll be a fight for the planet by humans. But humans may not be as advanced as the new technological species that's arriving. It probably will not destroy the other kingdoms, right? It probably will not destroy the other kingdoms because they're not a threat. But we as humans that have been created by the Creator, just in a different life wave than other beings, pose a threat. Because remember, Aquarius rules anarchy. So the conquest of all races by one race, because we've already experienced conquering each other. We've already experienced conquering through destruction of nature by doing nuclear weapons, stuff that destroys the planet and everything in it. But then nature fights back and puts us in check through natural disasters. That's how Mother Nature puts man in check. And she reinvents and goes through a series of rebirths, just like we do and just like everything else. The earth can bounce back. Can we bounce back? If we were created by these beings, they can easily destroy us too. Push the button. Remember, there's 98% of DNA gook that scientists have no idea what it is. And only 2% is known. These DNA hidden miracles within us can become activated by these beings. Some people are already having their DNAs roiled up and activated. It's deep stuff here. Pluto in Aquarius. Because Saturn rules Capricorn, a cardinal sign, and it rules government, and it is the classical co-ruler of Aquarius, we have to mention an aspect of Saturn here. Saturn is very disciplined, very methodical, believes and respects method, tangible results, and hard work to obtain minimal but critical results. It is non-forgiving in this area. Many good researchers have a very strong Saturn, pronounced Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn here gives me the feeling of a totalitarian government. The Hunger Games, let's go back to that with Jennifer Lawrence. The Hunger Games. Tell me that's not Saturn in Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius. They got to fight to eat. And then when they get to the games, they got to fight each other by killing each other, and the best wins. Isn't that Pluto in Aquarius? Where you put all groups, strip them of individuality, because if you remember the movie, they all had uniforms. Everybody wore the same uniform. Those who were rich had a particular uniform. Those who were middle class had a particular uniform, and the poor. It's no different of a system that we see today or we've seen through different other types of monarchs. The Hunger Game just gave it a futuristic bent to it. You should watch that movie. Watch that movie carefully. Because I'm familiar with the writers and directors, the people who wrote this film, and what they are members of. Right? And that was a very expensive film with a very expensive billing cast. Woody Harrelson, Jennifer Lawrence, was the other, a few more A-list actors. So this was a very expensive movie. What was it trying to say? I'll let you, grapple over it, marinate over it. Pluto in Aquarius. Because Pluto deals with the underworld and deals with the extreme dark and the collective shadow of a nation, country, people, even ideology. With Pluto in Aquarius, it is quite a possibility that the genius of technology that has brought us so far to a very sophisticated and modest age can also, because remember, Pluto functions in extremes. Pluto here may create technology so dark, so diabolical, so unspeakable. I think of War of the Worlds, a book written by Orson Welles, and it was a good movie in the 50s. It was redone, and again, A-list actors. Tom Cruise was in this movie. And I tell you, this movie was very scary. Lord of the Worlds was a good book, and that movie in the 50s was scary, for the imagination that was allowed at that time. But this motherfucking movie with Tom Cruise scared the shit out of me. They took these humans, right, and brought them up with these antennas. Imagine an antenna coming in like that. It looks like a snake, but it's in the air and it's looking at you with this box. That would be terrifying. The way it was filmed, my kudos to the director. Fantastic job in directing. That it was so terrifying. Just the prospect of them coming in and the sound that they made, and the lighting. Oh, it was horrible. I was terrified at every moment watching that movie. Something struck in me to the core. They took great length to do this movie. This movie with Tom Cruise took years to make. And then, when they took him on the ship, periodically there was like rain came out of the spaceships, rain. It wasn't until it was later down the road that people realized that it wasn't rain, it was blood. They were massacring, it was a slaughterhouse. The humans were being taken there and they were being slaughtered, and the hours was coming out the blood like rain. That was so diabolical. Ugh. Then you have to wonder, why did Orson Welles write such a book ahead of its time? And it teaches us a lesson that we, as the higher primate on this planet, can do whatever we want to each other and to the planet, including violating the other kingdoms that live with us. These other kingdoms are helpless when it comes to us. That's why we got animals that are extinct. We got laws to regulate hunting, because if we leave people to hunt animals, rare species, it can cause a disbalance to the ecosystem. Yet there is no one that can take a gun and hunt a man. Man is the apex predator as the higher primate above the other kingdoms. We should be protecting the planet and the other kingdoms. Yeah, we destroy ourselves, we destroy the other kingdoms, destroy the planet, is that we go unchecked. So Pluto in Aquarius might very well be a game changer in which we finally are confronted with an apex predator that matches us. It's a possibility. We have to consider it. We have to consider it. Pluto in Aquarius in the individual birth chart as a generation may bring about brilliant scientists, brilliant innovators, and those that can actually do and perform miracles. I mean, the miracle of like that was done with Jesus Christ. Pluto in Aquarius. There is definitely going to be an odd eccentric because Aquarius rules eccentricity, the strange and the unusual. No doubt that we might have many serial killers, many people with sadistic, sadist, and very strange, even perverted tastes and appetites and behaviors. God knows by what experience is that going to come about. What will Pluto destroy to the core? And what will rise in its stead? The prospects are terrifying in either direction that you look at it. Yeah. Pluto in Aquarius. Now, I finish here. And there's not many of you. Many of you will watch it, in the morning. Let me say hello to some of you. Thank you for staying up with me as I do this series. It's wonderful to be back and keep it to a schedule. I still got some charts to do, but I'm pretty good now. I gotta go. So much to do, so much to recover from. Okay. Let me just take this out. I think that's better. Let me say hello. Who's here? How do we psychologically prepare for this? Even I'm stuck. Well, I'm working on that. I'm actually working on that. Crystal Felicia, how are you? Michael Wyatt. Michael Wyatt. Yes. I can talk to Michael Wyatt. That's Mr. Omen. Nicholas Martinez, how are you? And who's this? Thank you. Who's this? Nicholas Martinez. You want to know more? Well, what would you like to know? What would you like to catch it on the replay? I love you more. Duan, how you doing? Lulu, how are you? Yeah, and Lydia, how are you? Okay. Hello. And Cranky Beast 2299. Sword. Okay. Yes. What more can I say about Aquarius, Pluto in Aquarius? I believe that in addition to maybe having, if we're talking in an extreme, a one planetary world government, I can see that being part of the equation. One world government, like the Hunger Games. But we can also have that going on and at the same time have pockets of different realities also happening all at once. Or one occurs first, dies out, and then another begins. There will be an extreme of both realities. I don't believe it will happen. It'll happen at the same time as one blends into another. But to exist at their peak both at the same time, I don't see that happening. Now, speaking as an anthropologist, we have not seen the rising of two empires within a nation at the same time. only when we are dealing with the feudal system and feudal states. And yes, but in those instances, it wasn't defined as a country. As a country, it's very rare. I don't think anywhere in history have we seen that. So we are very leery of putting that part of the equation because we haven't seen it. So we're not clear. And that's part of empirical research. If we haven't seen it before, we cannot put it as a given that it will happen. If anything, it'll be like calculus or integrated algebra. It'll be a variable, but not a constant. Okay. What else? That boy, yes. Okay, Uncle Pluto was in Aquarius when Judea. Oh, we found somebody that has some information. Great, let's read this. This is by that boy, Yasser. Pluto was in Aquarius when the Judean revolt happened 67 AD. Oh, wow. Wait a minute. Yeah, now I want to hear more. Tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. Greece. I get these tunes. That created the new one. It goes so fast, I'm telling you. That created the what? Oh, really? Oh, man. That created the New Testament. Can you speak on it? Well, yeah, okay. Thank you for saying that, and I will verify that information. But supposing that it's correct, the rise of the New Testament is a complete antithesis to the Old Testament. Because you live by the law, you die by the law. That's an extremist. So this is very in keeping with Pluto in Aquarius. The coming of Jesus Christ, which heralded the Piscean age, put a complete destruction to the following of that ideology. It didn't destroy the ideology because we still have it today. But the use of it as everyday life was destroyed completely. And that gave rise to a new era, which gave the opposite of that ideology. And just as extreme as an eye for an eye or tooth for a tooth. Because in this polarity, unlike the physicality of the law stating that if a woman commits adultery, she is to be stoned to death, with the New Testament, it became more antithetical, more spiritual, more ethereal, and based on non-tangible collateral, which in this case will be faith, which was the beginning of releasing tangible reality as given and looking at the unseen as the actual reality. Very good, sir. So this is an excellent example of one reality based on ideology collapsing completely, along with the age, to give rise to a new one. Very good. Very good. This is what I'm looking for, and this is the basis of research. That little information you gave pretty much confirmed this discourse today. Guys, thank you so much. Please donate. Please ask for perfect readings, and you donate at PayPal, right? And it's the People's Astro. So that's our link to PayPal. Guys, thank you very much.